We've been doing our top 5 Prince songs from each album, the kind of series here for a bit. We're on to the next one. This is the album that got me into it all. It's the one that started it for me, Graffiti Bridge, 1990. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. If you're having a good time here on the channel, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when we release a new video. And if you want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon, or you can become a YouTube member. Links for both of those are in the description. It means a lot to us. Thank you so much. All right, this one was kind of a scary one. I wasn't sure what I was going to do or how I was going to feel when I got to Graffiti Bridge. Again, it's the album. This was the first Prince album that I ever really had that it called to me and it made me want to go back and listen to it all. And not only that, but it's the first album that has like just so many songs on it. The Prince put so many songs on this thing to the point where like it was really hard to whittle this down to 5 songs. I also didn't want to limit myself, so I didn't like throw out all the ones that Prince wasn't on or anything. So, you know, the time songs are in the mix on this one. I can't say that any of them made the cut, but but they were at least in the mix, and one of them almost did. So, I mean, that's just how that works. But I was able to eventually whittle it down to 5. Super difficult, though. A lot of people kind of diss on this album, and a lot of people say like it's got a few good songs on it and the movie was trash and all that stuff, but this was just, you know, the first sign of Prince losing it and, you know, all that stuff. And I'm like, this album's great. To go over the list of songs that are on this album so you understand what I had to go through when I was selecting, they are Can't Stop This Feeling I Got, New Power Generation, Release It, The Question of You, Elephants and Flowers, Round and Round, Weak and Funk, Joy and Repetition, Love Machine, Tick Tick Bang, Shake, Thieves in the Temple, The Latest Fashion, Melody Cool, Still Would Stand All Time, Graffiti Bridge, and New Power Generation Part 2. And obviously what we know from having heard a lot of stuff in Prince's vault is that a lot of these songs were written earlier on, but then were finally like revamped now that he had Paisley Park, you know, up and running, and he was like taking all these initial ideas that he had years before and like making them into like these real works of art, and in a professional studio that was up to his standards, and he was like loving the hell out of it. And so with that said, I guess we should just go ahead and jump right into it. My number 5 is New Power Generation. It's one of those songs that when you listen to it, it definitely feels like it's 90s Prince. It has less of a timeless quality that some of his music, actually most of his music has. But for some reason, New Power Generation, I just always come back to it. And I think it's because, let down your funky weapon. I mean, it's really that. Funky and catchy, and it's like that made the song, and it was an amazing way to, it's weird to say, I would say start the album off, even though the first song is technically Can't Stop This Feeling I Got. For me, when I was younger, I would honestly skip Can't Stop This Feeling I Got. It didn't really feel like it fit on the album, and I would just start right with New Power Generation. Let down your funky weapon. I mean, it just gets me jazzed every time. It's so good, especially when Prince liked it enough, obviously, to release a whole maxi single. I did a review of that before, so don't forget to go check that out. But oh my God, just so many great things happening on this song. It goes in one direction and it goes in another. Then you have like this weird carnival ride in the middle. New Power Generation is my number 5. All right, my number 4 is Joy and Repetition. I honestly thought that one was going to end up higher on the list, but after going through again, so many good songs on here, it was hard to really kind of narrow it down. So Joy and Repetition ended up being my number 4. The guitar solo is great. The instrumentality is wonderful. This was where we were first introduced to the idea of soul psychedelicide. I love Ingrid Chavez on it. She's not on the song, but she is in the movie. But I mean, just the whole storytelling aspect of the song. I also love the fact that he keeps talking about, in the storytelling aspect, he keeps talking about what she's saying and saying it's, 4-letter word. She keeps saying it, but he doesn't actually tell you what she says until like near the end of his singing part of the song. She says, love me. It's like, oh, but he didn't start off with that. He didn't be like, she said, love me, joy and repetition. Expertly put together. It's like the song itself is pretty short, but obviously with the additional guitar stuff, I mean, it just brings it to a whole other level. My number 3 is We Can Funk featuring George Clinton. I may end up having to make a video about kind of comparing We Can Funk to its earlier We Can addition. But I think that honestly, the addition of George Clinton to anything is a positive. I think I said in my album review, you take Prince's sexy funk and you're kind of mixing it with George's dirty funk, and you're making this weird like funk salad, and it is just so good. Prince is up in his falsetto and just freaking rocking it. George is, oh, George. But like all in all, like it is just, again, such a well put together song. This was one of those that was a much earlier song that Prince had, and then he revamped it with George Clinton, and it was definitely for the betterment of the song. So now I get to my number 2. My number 2 is Still Would Stand All Time, which is, oh man, such a powerful song. I still sing that song and it still brings a tear to my eye. I don't know. I think that was like the first song that like, well, not the first song, because that was New Power Generation, but it was like that really big song for me with Prince, where like if I listen to it, it brings me back to when I was a child, and like it's just, again, so powerful, all about how, basically if you just trust in God will show you the way, especially when you bring the Steels in there. Prince is like singing deep and then high and then deep and then high, and he's all over the place. It has a great placement in the movie. It's the song that he wins the battle with in the movie. There's just so much good coming out of Still Would Stand All Time. I actually really loved an earlier recording of the song, like before Graffiti Bridge, where he was singing it and he was like, it's called Still Would Stand All Time, and the audience is singing like, time would stand still, and he's just like, y'all don't listen. It still would stand all time. It's one of my favorite like live recordings of Prince, when he's like trying to get the audience to like get on board with what he's saying. But I don't think he was there yet, and I don't think the audience was there yet. All right, I have 2 honorable mentions. Again, with so many songs, it'd be hard to not have a couple of honorable mentions. But the first one is going to be Question of You. The song is great. The guitar solo is epic. The combination of the piano and the guitar on Question of You, it just makes it like epic. But it just got beat out so like slightly, so it didn't make the list. The other honorable mention is Melody Cool, which is probably the best of the songs that Prince is not on. I actually really, really love Melody Cool. I loved this version as well as that version that was on her album The Voice. And if you haven't checked out my review for The Voice, definitely go check that out. But oh my gosh, Melody Cool, Mavis Staples coming on here and just like, knocked it out of the park. It is just such a good song. With those out of the way, my number 1 is Elephants and Flowers. I have talked a lot about my love of Prince's rock music here on the channel, and Elephants and Flowers, I think, is probably the best example of that, especially in the 1990s. I was gonna say early 90s, but I mean 1990s as early 90s as you can get, really. But Elephants and Flowers, the song is really sexy, but is actually about like I'm lonely and I'm kind of on the hunt for sex, but I end up finding God instead. And it's funny to compare it, again, to earlier versions of the song where it really was kind of all just about sex. But with this new spiritual awakening that Prince had for the Graffiti Bridge album, it really was kind of like, yeah, I was on the hunt for sex, but now I've found God and some sex. But, you know, the sex is secondary to that. Love sexy as a concept, you know. The guitar on this is great. Prince's delivery is just cool. Like, it's not overpowered, and he's not going like crazy up into his falsetto, and he's not like trying to blow the speakers on anything. It's just like a cool rock song. And you don't get that much. Like, a lot of people are always just trying to just bring stuff to a whole other level, and just like every song needs to be a banger and it needs to be a hit and all that stuff. And it's just like, you know what? Sometimes you can just write a good ass song and it's wonderful. And it's not the biggest banger. I think that's probably New Power Generation. It's not the sexiest song on here. That might be We Can Funk. It's not the most soulful song. I think that's probably Still Would Stand All Time. And it's not the only storytelling song on here. That would be Joy and Repetition. But I feel like Elephants and Flowers kind of combines the best out of all of the other songs that I love of this time, and puts it all into one song, and then just like a really, really cool delivery. So that's my list. It went New Power Generation, Joy and Repetition, We Can Funk, Still Would Stand All Time, and Elephants and Flowers. Let me know what your guys' top 5 looks like, and I want to compare and contrast. I'm wondering how many of yours match mine. It hasn't happened that often in past videos. But let's continue the discussion down in the comments. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Also with the bell, make sure that you hit all videos and not some videos. Support the channel by either becoming a patron or a YouTube member. And with all of that said, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all, and I'll check you out in the next video.